Hey everybody, I'm Alex McClellan.
And I'm Mason McClellan.
And we're the Backtrack Brothers. We go back and watch classic movies and talk about how they hold up now.
We're going to talk about our personal history with the movie and the actors and the visuals first, and then we're going to go completely off with the spoilers, and we're going to dive into the plot and give our overall rating.
Yep, very nice and smooth. We're gonna spoil this movie more than Patriots fans for the last 20 years. Not bad, right? Happy football season.
New one every time.
That's right. Next up, let's go ahead and talk. Mason, do you want to go into your personal history with Adam Sandler and this movie if you have any history with it?
Yeah, so when you go to the beach and there's like the random TV stations that are like just on like the rental TV,
yes.
right?
Yeah, gotcha.
One of the movies that I caught like the last half of was Waterboy.
Yeah.
My whole instinct was like, this guy's voice is so weird. And I didn't have any morals back then, so I just made fun of him. And that was my whole thing. It's like, guy with a funky voice plays football. And
that's it. I mean, that's it. End of video. That's basically what the movie is.
There you go. That's my personal history, but how about you?
Gotcha. What about Adam Sandler just as an actor? Do you have a lot of history with watching Sandler movies? Because I'm going to use this as an excuse to dive into Sandler in general.
No.
No?
This is really like I obviously know who he is, and there's a few like, SNL sketches I've seen, but this is like the first Adam Sandler really Adam Sandler focused movie.
Okay, and that includes like, I feel like you might even watch like some of his 2010s movies when you were a younger kid. Like what about like the Grown Ups movies, or what about like Jack and Jill, Just Go With It, like those 2010s movies? You never watched any of those? I'm not complaining because those aren't my favorites. So I'm just asking. Okay, so really you don't have any Adam Sandler pretense coming into this other than seeing the second half of this movie when you were 9 or 10 years old and thinking it was kind of dumb.
Yeah.
Fair. Interesting. My background's a little different. So I was born in 91, which if anyone grew up in that phase, you know that as a kid growing up, Adam Sandler was the king. So in terms of like comedy films.
Yeah.
Basically from 96 through 2009, which is when I was from 5 to 18 years old, he just made nothing but comedy hits. And I went to the theater to basically see every single one of them. So Adam Sandler is very much formative in my childhood, comedy background, all that type of stuff.
I feel like kind of what you said about Ron Williams, the big kids love him.
Yeah, 100%. But his movie catalog is probably 4 times bigger than Robin Williams. And Robin Williams would do more adult films, and Adam Sandler has a couple other ones like there, like Punch Drunk Love and Spanglish, but those aren't the movies I'm talking about. Let me actually just run through really quick here and just run through this list. Let me just run through these lists of comedies that came out in that window that I was just talking about.
Are these in order of
chronological order?
Like them?
No, they're in chronological order.
Okay.
So I put them in the order that they came out, starting in 96. So 1996, we have Happy Gilmore. 98, Wedding Singer. 98, Waterboy. 99, Big Daddy. So by then, after those 4, he was king shit. Especially, so first off, The Waterboy was his first real big commercial hit. $23 million budget, made over $190 million, which is crazy. Especially like nowadays, people don't think about comedy films because they haven't made a good comedy film in a decade. They don't think of them as commercial successes like that, but it used to be back in the 90s, you could toss a former SNL member $20 million, and if you really hit, you could make a lot of money. So that's what ended up happening.
I know Happy Gilmore was huge.
Oh my gosh. So I will say, I love Happy Gilmore more than The Waterboy, and they're both sports movies, but they're definitely different. They're a little different in tone, and the characters are very different. Like Adam Sandler is like very angry in Happy Gilmore instead of just being a very docile, nice person in Waterboy. This is a beginning of comparisons. But yeah, I mean, I even realized I missed Billy Madison on this list. Billy Madison is one of his earliest ones too. I'm pretty sure, I think I missed that between Gilmore and Wedding Singer. Billy Madison, I think, is my favorite Adam Sandler movie, and that's one that I talk to people all the time because I don't want that one to get lost in the ether as well. But let's just keep going through this list. So you have Big Daddy, which really was like the blockbuster. Adam Sandler is a huge hit, here to stay. So that's 99. Then in 2000 you have Little Nicky, which there's detractors of that film. It's not a humongous success. I like it. I think it has some good qualities, but a lot of people aren't as big into it. Mr. Deeds was his big comeback. Most people I know love Mr. Deeds. That's much more of like growing up in a small New Hampshire town. It's much more to Adam Sandler's roots and back to him being a nice guy that people can root for again.
Yes.
So Mr. Deeds was a huge hit. And then in 2002, in that winter, 8 Crazy Nights came out. And I will tell you, that was one of the first movies I went to in theaters that I can remember to this day. In 2002, I was 10 years old. I remember to this day being in that theater crying, laughing at that movie. Have you even heard of 8 Crazy Nights? It's an animated Hanukkah movie by Adam Sandler.
What?
It is amazing.
Who even
It's
thinks of that?
so
Who
funny.
thinks that's a good idea?
What's that?
Who even thinks of the concept and who
Adam
thinks that would be a
Sandler?
good
Well,
idea?
so here's what it is. At this time, so Adam Sandler was on SNL from 90 to 95. So he was on there for 5-6 years. One of the big things that came out of that, he made this thing called the Hanukkah song.
Yes.
And Adam Sandler had comedy albums. He's a musician. You've probably seen, or I guess you haven't seen
I've
his
seen
movies.
the SNL stuff.
But you've seen the SNL stuff. So he made the Hanukkah song, and that was on one of his albums that took off big. So he became like the big Jewish comedian. So he was like, why don't I come out with this really great Jewish animated comedy? And it's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my, Whitey is like one of the best characters ever. So highly suggest anyone to check that movie out. It's a lost gem. Please do not let that die in the history books, please. Then after 8 Crazy Nights, you have Anger Management, where he pairs up with Jack Nicholson. That's one I'm kind of surprised. That's one I'm pretty surprised that you haven't seen, because that is really like, it's a more mature movie. It's PG-13. It's good. You'd be more into it.
Man.
Then you start getting into not great stuff. Then you have The Longest Yard, which I actually was considering bringing up as a possibility for this. We might hit it down the road. That is a remake of a 70s Burt Reynolds movie where Adam Sandler plays a Burt Reynolds role. That one is actually, I like it, but once again, people are gonna debate on it. Then we get to Click, which people were very love-hate on because it got really sad. There's some really serious stuff. It's kind of like Adam Sandler all of a sudden is starting to get serious.
Is that the one with like the remote?
Yes, that's one with the remote. Yeah, and everyone knows Click because it's such a simple premise. Like you had a remote, a TV remote for real life, and you just made a movie out of it. But the ending is devastating, dude. It's literally devastating. Then the next year, I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry comes out. And have you heard anything about that movie?
No, I have not. It's not good.
It's 2 straight men pretending to be gay, getting married for the benefit of the one husband because the one husband's wife died. And it's just all basically gay jokes, and it's does not age well. I have it on DVD if you want to watch it. I haven't watched it in a decade. Next year though, underrated classic. Everyone was out on Adam Sandler at that point, but the next year he comes out with Don't Mess with the Zohan, which sounds ridiculous because it is ridiculous. It's a Middle Eastern comedy. He's a Middle Eastern anti-terrorist who comes to America to be a barber. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Who comes up with that?
Adam Sandler. This is what I'm saying. Like, people don't appreciate. He was a comic genius, man. Like, you don't just come out with this many movies and have them be successful just because you're not creative. He's very good. But he would take simple premises and turn them into very simple, silly premises, commit to them, and run it through a whole movie, you know? Then after that, 2009, probably when I really fell off the wagon, to be honest with you, was Funny People, which was him, Seth Rogen, and it was actually like a movie about stand-up comedy, where Seth Rogen is like an apprentice under Adam Sandler, who's an established comedian, comedic actor. It's super long. It's a Judd Apatow movie, and he's the one who did like Superbad and Knocked Up and all those movies. It's like 2.5 hours long. His movies are always too long, but I love them. But his movies could always use a good 15 to 20 minute trim. It's just not my favorite. It's a pretty sad movie. It's just not what a lot of people expected, and I think it's something I would like to revisit now that I'm older. But I would not suggest you to watch it. You would not like that movie. I'm just being very honest. I just listed off 15 movies that he came out with in 15 years. He was putting out a movie a year, and there were other movies I skipped. Like, I didn't talk about like his serious films or his bit appearances. All right, I droned on long enough, I think, Mason. Is that fair? Fair. So now I'm gonna let you talk a little bit about the visuals in this movie. Now, this isn't, it's not meant to be a very visually impressive movie, but let's still touch on it. What did you like? What did you not like?
So the first thing I wanted to mention is like the heads that will appear on the players. It'll be like a still image. And then it would just be like a baby or like another player.
They weren't still images. They were moving. They were making sounds. They were talking.
Well, the faces were. But the actual like background like of the football players, that was all an image.
Well,
and they just put the heads on a picture, and it looked very off-putting.
Okay, welcome to the 90s. $20 million budget, man. All that went to the soundtrack. We'll talk about that later, but obviously none of it went into the video effects. I agree with you. That visualization effects are not great.
No.
I do like the rattle sound that comes
It looks like a Snapchat filter.
It does. It's not, I mean, dude, really Snapchat filters are better than that, to be honest with you. The Snapchat filters, I even struggle sometimes. Like, is there a filter on there? Like, this movie, there's no question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One quick, just like a flashback scene with the two coaches.
Yep.
No makeup done, nothing. It's only them in wigs.
I love it.
And that's the only thing. And I love it.
I love it.
So funny.
That's so purposeful. They're like, should we get younger actors? Nope. Should we try and age them down? Nope. Just put a wig on them and we'll put it in black and white. Except for the playbook. You notice the playbook was the only thing that had color?
No.
It was really cool. Yeah.
Oh,
the playbook cover is green.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that has color in that scene. It's just something I thought was interesting. One thing I'll just bring out visually, I just love, and this is something I don't expect you to connect with, but that 90s, 80s, 90s old equipment, like the big shoulder pads and the loose jerseys, like the mesh jerseys, as opposed to like, you see the equipment and stuff now, everything's smaller, it's compact, the jerseys are tight, it's like a slick material. Like back then, it just reminded me of my like middle school, high school uniforms. Like it's literally what they had.
That's still our middle school, high school.
One thing I gotta bring up, every single hit in this movie is a haymaker. Just every single one, cleats are off the turf. I just love they make every hit feel impactful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like in the montage, you're like, oh, like you're like, there's a lot. Like it's just, you feel bad for the people getting hit. There were concussions on that set.
Yeah.
Like, unless those were dummies, which I don't think it was, that all looked and felt super real. Like you gotta give them credit, man. Like you can't, that's like any given, that's any given Sunday level. Like that's wild.
I mean, obviously the hits are very over exaggerated, like everything in the movie, but think about the actors.
Somebody had to do it.
I didn't think about it.
Yeah, man. Someone's getting hit. Like, that was real. I was thinking, I was like, who was playing him? Whoever was playing that linebacker delivering those hits, I wonder if they had like an ex-NFL or like a college stud and just had him just beat up on interns. Just get a PA on a helmet and just fucking wreck them. Full speed. But yeah, I just think it was impressive they could make it, all of those hits look so powerful.
Yeah.
That was pretty well done. And really all of the football scenes, in my opinion. I think, especially as you progress through the movie, not getting into spoilers, but you know, the stadium and the stage gets bigger and bigger, and that's reflected in the crowd, it's reflected in the announcers, it's reflected in the team's reactions to things. I think that part visually of this movie is very well done.
Yes.
They could have messed that up and like never showed the crowd. They could have like not taken the effort to fill a stadium, but they did. They did all of that. All right, so that wraps up the visual component of our review. Now, Mason, what do you think with the audio side of things? Soundtrack, score, how'd you feel?
So, you know, the main thing or vibe of this movie is that a lot of it is kind of like cartoonish. Yeah. And like the feel of it, and that's what I got from the soundtrack.
Interesting.
You know, there were some parts where like, you know, like the slow-mo one hand catch like that is like all very like, you know, they're gonna obviously make that all cinematic and dramatic.
It was so dramatic. That's what I'm understanding. We'll get more in detail on it. Obviously, don't go into spoilers of what's going on there. But to your point, that was like the most stereotypical like sports moment score going on, and that is consistent through those sports scenes.
Yeah, but a lot of it that aren't like very stereotypical are just kind of like goofy sounding kind of thing. That Adam Sandler just trotting around doing whatever.
So yeah, I think I would say for the part where it's just like a score where someone's actually like composing things, it's very much just like a classic 90s comedy score. You know what I mean? There's not a big range of emotions going on. You know what I mean? It's a happy, silly scene. It's got that kind of score going on, or you know, there's a couple of tense scenes, but even then, I listened for it. There's not really even a score going on there. They kind of just let the dialogue be the star of the show, which it's good to do sometimes. Where I think it shines is some of the actual songs of the soundtrack are bumping, and they're like big ticket. They must have spent a lot of money on this music. Not only that, but it ties perfectly into the theme of whatever scene we were going into. So for example, not sure if you caught this, and this is all older music, right? So this is obviously Adam Sandler, right around our dad's age. So he's gonna have a very similar taste. So it's a lot of 60s, 70s rock, and then like there's one segment they have a rap song in there, but all of the actual like songs that they got the license for and put in are big hitters. Like when he's riding back to his home for the first time, the swamp, and he's riding his tractor. Yeah. The song is playing, "Born on the Bayou," is a slapper from the 60s or 70s. You might have not known it. Then they had Jimi Hendrix playing when he first goes to SCLSU. It's just Jimi Hendrix on Waylon, and I was like, this is sweet. And it's just there's a lot of little notes like that where the song, and also like when they have the New Year's montage, which I'm not getting into details exactly what happened there. The song playing there is about New Year's and New Year's Eve. So like it's something, if you listen for it, the audio soundtrack selections are very purposeful.
Yep, looking at you, Top Gun.
Yeah. A little bit more range than Top Gun, just a little bit. One thing, you brought it up, right? So there's a lot of silly things that happen in this movie, and one thing I really like is that they do a good job of putting in little comedic silly noises, where I think some movies they are afraid to do that, but Adam Sandler's like, no, we want to make people laugh. I think one of the golden examples, when he pokes the dude in the eye, there's like a little boink noise that happens, and like I think if that boing noise doesn't happen, I don't know if I would have laughed, because that looks like it hurt, man. He went into his head, man. Like,
it was like a quick boom.
Yeah, dude.
Power. But no, with a little boink, it's
yeah, and if you add a little boink, all of a sudden it's funny.
Yeah.
You know, so there's just little things like that. The sound he makes when he tackles, going, like, that is gold. It made me laugh, especially when it's the montage and it makes that sound like 8 times in a row. Like oh my God, it's so funny. The best sound in the movie though is when Colonel Sanders gets hit in the head with the baseball. That's the sound. I'm gonna play it here, but I like my version of it.
Yeah, I like his version better.
Thank you. No, Kitty. It's time for you to leave. It's good to see you, but you gotta go.
Kitty hour.
Bye, Kitty. Leave. All right, so now we are finished the soundtrack and audio portion of the review. Let's start talking about the acting performances.
Cool.
Let's lead it off with my boy Adam Sandler, who is playing Bobby Boucher.
So I actually want to get your thoughts on something.
Okay.
The voice.
Yeah.
That Adam Sandler puts on. What are your thoughts on it? And do you think it's like good? Do you think it like matches the vibe? Do you think it's just off-putting? Like what's like?
So I think it definitely isn't Cajun. I think this is a character that he came up with, whether it was for Saturday Night Live or something.
Yeah.
Or he had some kind of similar character, and they found an environment to squeeze him into, right? So I don't think he intended for it to be a Louisiana accent. I think it's just supposed to be like a nervous, timid, Asperger-y kid who's just all grown up. Obviously with a lisp and a stuttering issue. There's a lot of stuff going on with his voice. I think it's funny, but it's intended to be funny. They're not trying, I don't judge it in terms of like an acting performance because it's not intended to be taken seriously. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because let's have a real talk, because you bring it up. Okay. I think it's a very fair question. In the year 2022, is what Adam Sandler portrayed without a character with a speech impediment, where it's clearly supposed to be comedic, does that not hold up well in your eyes?
I think it gives, in certain scenes gives like, his delivery obviously and his voice helps with certain like goofier or like, slapstick comedy.
I really appreciate what you're showing me right now.
Yeah, just like that.
That line is infinitely more funny because of how he's talking and his stutter, 1,000%.
Yeah.
Or, nah, mama, the search continues. That is infinitely funnier because of how he says it. It's a funny line, but it's so much funnier because of how he says it. Now, are we bad people for laughing at that? It's a fair question.
That's a whole dilemma. Because then technically we're laughing at everybody with a speech impediment and we think they're all their voices are really funny.
I don't agree with that. When it's that extreme, I think it's clearly intended to be for comedic purposes. Now, I wouldn't blame anybody, whether they have a speech impediment or know somebody with a speech impediment, for not being happy with this movie. I would understand that point of view 100%. I personally do not share that perspective. I don't think that just because you laugh at a character that's an over-dramatization of something, that you necessarily carry those same thoughts and feelings to everyone that has that at any level.
Yeah.
I think that's a little extreme. You know?
Yes. I think it is hard, but I think that's my bracelet.
Okay.
I think we found a
it's
good...
probably for the best. Why are you wearing a bracelet in the first place?
Because Lawrence. I took it off for the recording because I didn't want the beads bouncing all over the thing.
Yeah.
But...
Well, I'm glad it didn't interfere with the recording.
It did not. I think Adam Sandler's acting is good. And I think he fits the goofy character well.
He's portrayed so innocently. Like, he's literally, every single thing he does is truly with the best intentions. Yeah. And he's such a good guy that typically, I mean, you're laughing at the lines he's delivering, but you're really typically aren't like laughing at him like, ha ha, he's so stupid. It's just funny how he delivers it. Just like we have friends that just, how they deliver something, they'll say the same thing that you said, but just because of how they said it, it's funnier. That's just a dynamic person thing, right? I think that's kind of what's happening here, and I think that's what he's going for, you know? You know, it's different than, instead of having his Happy Gilmore character or his Billy Madison character where they deliver their punchlines by screaming, that's their comedic effect and kind of how they get you to laugh at their punchlines. Yeah. This one's a little different. I think it's just a different tactic. Is it a questionable tactic in 2022? Probably. Probably.
There's a few other questionable jokes, but I'd like to touch on that later.
Yeah, they hit the R word a couple times, and
the kicker.
Yeah, it's kind of rough. So I would say, I think this is Adam Sandler right in his sweet spot. And you don't really have that frame of reference because this is like the first full-length Adam Sandler movie you've watched. Yeah. But after you've watched Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, you know, Big Daddy, Mr. Deeds, you're gonna find that he kind of has a sweet spot of the lovable loser who's got a soft heart. Maybe he's a little bit rough on the exterior in terms of being protective or aggressive, like in Happy Gilmore. But this one, he still has that childlike innocence, but instead of the anger, it's just complete innocence. Yeah. In terms of, he's a complete softie. He does whatever his mom wants him to do. He still exudes that loyalty, that very like family first mentality. That's always a through point in all of his movies. Next up, let's talk about his mama, Kathy Bates. Her real name is Helen Boucher, but I'm gonna call her Mama because she's referred to as Mama for the whole fucking movie. Mama say you need a throat lozenge. Yo, cough is the devil.
It's devil's lungs. Throat's clogged up. Keep going.
Good? All right.
I'm good.
Cut down on those Macanudo cigars. So what were your thoughts on Kathy Bates? Mama.
I thought Mama?
Yeah.
Was good.
Kathy Bates is the shit. Do you know about Kathy Bates?
No.
Oh, man. Kathy Bates she's just amazing in every single thing she does, going back to the 70s or 80s, whenever she started. Go ahead.
She was believable. I mean, like this mom who overly cares about his maybe autistic son.
Maybe.
It's believable. It seems like, you know, she's very like into like the religious stuff. Yeah. Passes that off in an aggressive tone when talking about like the devil. Like very
assertive.
I like it. I like her.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, let's just be very real. Kathy Bates is an icon in my eyes. She's the best. Now, I go back, I've seen her in Misery, she was an unknown when that came out, and that's what made her a star. Have you heard of that movie? No. It's a Stephen King novel adaptation. It's really good. You definitely should check that out. Oh, man.
Add to the list, though.
Add it to the list. Misery is a great movie, but she's in so many great things. I'll point out she was in The Office for a portion of a season. She actually does a southern accent in that one. She's from Florida in that. But she's kind of a similar personality, not as crazy, but she's like an assertive businesswoman, and she's very like, no nonsense, straightforward, very similar accent. I like her a lot in that. So if you've seen The Office, think that, but country version.
And like probably 5 times crazier.
Yeah, she's legitimately crazy. In The Office, she actually does have like a good business sense and stuff. She's the CEO of the company, so she's like a king shit. In this one, she's mentally unstable. I'll give her credit too, and even, we'll talk about this more in detail later once we get into spoilers, but when she turns, like when she kind of flips at a certain point in the movie, that is where I'm the most impressed with her, and where I think most people will be most impressed with her. because that's where you see her range, where she goes from one end of the aisle to the complete other end, and she does it believably, which is very hard to do. A lot of people would just be like, oh my God, she just flip-flopped, and that's not believable, but she pulls it off. How long did it take you to realize that she was going to call everything the devil?
Probably after he said that girl's the devil. I think before that he said that. What did he say was the devil? Like, what were some of the examples? What was the devil?
Astrology, where he brought up he was I'm a Virgo. I don't like confrontation. That was the perfect line that epitomizes her. It's like that. I think that's the first time you see her, and he says something like in retort to what something she says. And it's not like he was confrontational or anything. He's like, oh, actually, and she replied, "Don't raise your voice at me, Bobby Boucher."
That was probably the quietest thing you said.
Yeah, exactly. I ain't raising my voice, Mama. I don't like confrontation. I'm a Voigo. That's why I love his accent when he pronounces words like that. Like later on, he says, "To whom it may concern." Consoin. C-O-N-C-O-I-N.
Consoin.
Concern. Next up, we're going to talk about Coach Klein.
Yes.
Who is played by Henry Winkler. What did you think about Coach Klein?
I mean, I don't know, because I feel like, he has a lot of like tone switches in his acting.
Oh yeah.
I feel like,
there's a reason for that.
I mean, it's a hard role of another mentally unstable guy.
Yep.
Who's, who has these like breakdowns.
Yeah.
But I feel like in an unrealistic way, he kind of goes from this like breakdown to like a proud, like a very...
He kind of bounces back and forth.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think a little bit too quickly to be actually realistic. Let's take the, when Adam Sandler first meets him, he goes from breaking down in his office, like freaking out, whatever, freaking out over the plays on the blackboard.
Yeah. He was watching film, by the way. Did you see that?
No.
Yeah, that was a reel with actual film. Yeah, it was just because you had no idea what that was. I don't have a video, I wanted to point that out.
So I feel like, especially in that scene, he goes from mentally breakdowning. He goes from a mental breakdown to being all excited about a new being like, oh, you'll do this for us for free, really? And it just seems like just from that switch from him freaking out, pacing across the room to being a calm, oh, cool, this will be great for us. That kind of switch. Yeah. I think that was a little bit,
I'll point out, I think that was supposed to happen because he gave him the water. And that was supposed to clear his mind and make him think clearly. And that's supposed to kind of be the joke, the fact that you just give him a classic cup of water. And Bobby Boucher's magical water that clears his mind.
And this happens later, too.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. I know, it happens multiple times. But I will say this. I don't need to turn this into a mental health video, but mental health can be in waves, right? You can have times where you're at your and go down. It's not a straight line, right? Sometimes you have peaks and valleys. And I think that's kind of what he's going through. I will also say, I don't think they put any thought into that when they made this movie. And they were like, we're going to say he had a mental breakdown. When it's convenient for him to be crazy, he's going to be crazy. When it's convenient for him to not be crazy, he's not going to be crazy. I honestly think that's what happened. But just playing devil's advocate, it can be a roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah.
One minute he's gonna be talking about football on the bench. The next minute he's gonna be giving good talking points to Bobby, teaching him how to form tackle. I understand what you're saying. That does happen in the same scene. That happens in the same practice. So I get it. So, a couple things I want to point out about Coach Klein, Henry Winkler. Do you know that actor is the Fonz, the guy who played the Fonz in Cheers? Happy Days, whatever show that was, my editing will fix whatever I said.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he's like, hey, he's the Fonz. He's that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't realize that when I was younger and watched it either, but as I got older, I saw him other stuff and I found out he was the Fonz and everything. He shows up in a few Sandler movies, as we go through time. What I love about Henry Winkler is he freaking commits to his role. He does not hold back. He goes 1,000 miles an hour in this role. When you want him to be crazy, he's crazy. And when you want him to be serious and to feel like a real coach, like when he's coaching him on the field, you can feel that too.
Yeah.
It can feel a little disjointed, like you said, where he can kind of go back and forth between those two things. But that's just kind of a comedy thing. There's no nuance in his character. It's very extreme. But I think he does that well. He does what he was asked to do very well. I'll put it that way. All right, next up, I'm going to look at this actress's name because I've never seen her in any other movie, and I don't think she really did anything beyond this. And she has a very weird name, so I'm just going to look at it. Her name is Fairuza Balk.
How do you pronounce that last name?
Fairuza Balk.
Like Balk, like chicken Balk?
Balk, B-A-L-K, Balk. I'm gonna spell her name right here. Yeah.
Okay, so, there you go. People at home, say it with us.
Balk.
Balk.
Balk. Well, think about it like it's a baseball term. A balk is a baseball term. You don't, yeah, never mind. Yeah, it's pronounced like B-O-C-K, I would imagine. Unless her last name is Balk.
Balk.
Ugh. Anyway, let's just call her Vicki. Her name is Vicki Vallencourt in this movie, and I think that's a lot easier to say. So what do you think about Vicki Vallencourt in general?
I think she was bad.
You didn't think she was bad?
I did not think she was bad. I thought, there wasn't any, super, emotional pulling, acting performances from her, but she, she was, the side, love interest character, how much more flat can a character be?
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, that's pretty standard for.
Yeah.
You'll see in the other movies too. Sandler love interest all kind of fall into that bucket where they're involved with the plot. They have some, a little bit of character development, but not a ton.
And actors just kind of like Balk, you just pull off the street, climb in a club, be like, hey, you want to be a part of the movie?
I disagree with you on that one.
I feel like she
I think she does more than you're giving her credit for.
She could have went the extra mile. And pull at least something, like Adam Sandler, for example. Make a character out of your character. Maybe, what if the girlfriend was also gross?
I think she is her own character to a good degree.
I don't feel
we have very different reads on this character.
She's flat. I feel like the character itself is flat. What progression does she go through? Without spoiling anything.
So I don't think that she personally transforms as a human being, but I think that she's a very entertaining character and she's multi-dimensional in a way that you're not giving her credit for. I think she works comedically, talking about stealing the Porsche and what she does to the mower, and there's moments where she's funny. She herself gets laughs. Mm-hmm. She has that astrology thing. She has some other interests, you can tell. And also, I'll say she is super loyal to Bobby, but also extremely devious and not loyal to anyone else she knows, which is an interesting trait because she does everything in her power to support Bobby.
Yeah.
And I will say, give her some character development. She goes from basically not being able to be around Mama to working with Mama in the end. So there's one instance where she grew. So
that's Mama.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
That's Mama.
Just saying that's my opinion.
All right.
Fair?
Mm-hmm. But your opinion's wrong.
I'm sorry?
But your opinion's wrong.
It's not wrong. I gave a bunch of credible, specific sources and reasons for my explanation. You're just like, she's flat. I will also say, I think you don't recognize the fact that she is the ultimate 90s punk trash stereotype. Mm-hmm. The haircut, the choker, leather jacket, pearls, jeans.
Yeah, the jeans with
the tank top. When she's wearing the tank top at the final game in the movie, she has, it's like velvet or something. It's just the trashiest 90s stuff. Nobody wears it anymore. But it's so for me, she fit right in a bucket. So for you, you're like, she's flat, she doesn't really have anything. To me, I just fired off 8 different things you could describe her that was unique about her. So that's where my slight disagreement lies.
All right.
Fair?
Fair.
Cool. Next up, let's talk about kind of the big baddie of this film. Let's talk about Coach Red Beaulieu, who is played by Jerry Reed.
I think he's a very stereotypical coach, bad guy coach. You're fired. A very
so effective.
Kind of.
You're fired. It's very much like the Mike McMahon or Vince McMahon meme. It's very much like the Vince McMahon.
A very drill sergeant coach.
Yeah.
And I mean,
it's got a great Southern accent.
It's not like he's a villain. Yeah. He's not super developed. Well. As an actor, in an acting perspective, I don't. Well, you gotta, it doesn't really have a moment to shine.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. But I don't think he needs one. I think this is starting to go into, this is the problem with movies in the 2020s. We gotta give the villain a 40-minute backstory in this movie. Guess what, Mason? This movie is an hour and 25 minutes, and it flies by because you don't waste time on that.
Yeah, but it's not wasting time. It's giving.
You needed more reason to not like him? Oh. You needed motivation. He wins championships. He just wants to win. It's that simple. The script doesn't give him a ton. He definitely is obviously just a stereotypical sports villain, but I think he's amazing at doing that. I think he does exactly what he's given to do. Amazing Southern accent. He's a complete douchebag. The first line of the movie, right, outside of just music playing through the opening credits, is him watching players practice, and he says, cut his ass. It's the first line of the movie. That's the first impression that you have of this guy, which is perfect. Yeah. And you see him, he's super cocky talking to Lynn Swann, the reporter. Like, he had everything. I feel like he should be the head coach at the University of Arkansas right now. One other thing I wanted to point out too is that it was really freaking cool that they got ESPN and all of these other like actual professional announcers and programming to actually build fake news and Sports Center broadcasts and stuff for the movie. That made it feel so authentic. I thought that was a good thing. And I'm gonna go through some of these people now, right? So the final game in the movie, not having spoilers, but the final game, you have Brent Musburger and Dan Fouts who are the announcers. Brent Musburger is a famous longtime announcer. Dan Fouts was a Hall of Fame NFL quarterback who also does color commentary to this day. So the fact that they got them is wild, and they're hilarious. They're so funny. Shut up, Brent. Lynn Swann, who's a Hall of Fame NFL wide receiver and also a sideline reporter, he came on there. You had Lawrence Taylor make an appearance, who's one of the best defensive players of all time, and I'll go into later in the spoiler section why his appearance and joke is so funny. And then you have Bill Cowher and Jimmy Johnson, who were two NFL head coaches at the time, in the stands scouting in the last game. So you literally have, you have Dan Patrick on Sports Center reading and doing the highlights of Bobby Boucher. There's just so many really cool ESPN integrations that just make it feel like this is actually happening in the sports world, you know? Ready, everybody? Spoilers! Bam! We're here. You're
at home. Probably or anywhere watching this video.
You could be anywhere. That's the beauty of the internet. You could even download it and watch it in the woods with no internet. That's how amazing technology is today.
Let's continue with the spoiler warning.
What are we talking about?
Spoilers.
Oh.
Yeah. That's why we did the whole drum roll.
Alright, so we are now officially in the spoiler zone. And first, we're going to look at the plot and the writing. So now that we are totally going into spoilers, feel free to openly talk about anything you want to, Mason. Let's go.
Cool. So I'm going to start with the humor.
Cool.
Just the jokes in general. And this movie is filled with a ton of random humor. Which I'm a sucker for.
Yes. So, very random.
I have a few lines here, and if you want to do your lines after me, be my guest. But the one where he goes in front of the kids and he's doing his whole thing, he's like, here's the lesson on not smoking crack. And all the kids are nodding like, yep, this is...
And you know what's even better? You don't even know the third level of why that joke's funny.
Why?
Now I'm going to talk about it.
Cool.
I hinted at it earlier. So that was Lawrence Taylor. And he's a former NFL Hall of Fame linebacker.
Yes.
And he was caught with a crack pipe in his playing days. So for him to stand there and tell a bunch of kids, don't do crack, it's pretty fucking funny. I also did not know that bit of information when I saw this movie when I was a kid. As an adult watching it and knowing that extra information, it's even funnier. And the fact that they got him to do it.
Good for him. He was okay with it.
Good for him. Honestly, you should be able to laugh at yourself. Good for him. All right. What other ones?
Another real quick one. This isn't a line, but just a little moment when Vicki says, oh, I did something to your lawnmower, and he goes, this is like a little 3-second bit where he just goes cruising down the road.
It's like half a second.
It's like half a second. And he just goes cruising down the road. That was so funny.
It made me laugh. It makes me laugh every time. Because you know it, she says it so fast, you don't have any time to prepare for it, even if you've seen the movie before, so it's still funny.
The little towel boy segment where we're like, oh, let's get another guy in here.
Oh my God, the Michigan towel boy. Yeah, that was rough.
He's just
Then Dan Patrick, he ran into a laundry list of issues. That was really good. It was well done. And that's the type of just slapstick humor that this movie does really well. And I'm somebody, I don't fall for slapstick anytime it happens, but this movie really does it well in my opinion.
Another quick one was when, and this is very subtle, you probably noticed it, you notice everything. When they were looking outside the window and the weird guy was hugging her and his hand slips up, starts grabbing her boob, and she's slaps it away. That was so funny.
It's one of the funniest things. That whole speech he makes, he's like, I may not be the smartest or the more beautiful. It's Clint Howard, who is butt ugly, and he knows it. I'm not saying anything he's not aware of. And it's just so funny and self-deprecating, and he just starts tearing up, and yes, as you say, just the hand just starts to creep up a little bit. She's like, what the fuck? Oh my God, I love that. 100%, that's what's good. That's the type of humor that you find. You'll find even more moments like that on your second and third rewatch of this movie.
And then the last one, the rubbing of the nipples in the slow-mo.
Yeah.
That caught me off guard.
And you know what's great, Mason? If you think this movie's random humor is great, you are going to love Billy Madison. Because Billy Madison is probably the most off-the-cuff, just weird as shit movie that he's made. Like, after that movie, they're like, all right, we get what you're going for, but you kind of have to make this more linear and make sense for mainstream audiences. But I can't wait for you to watch Billy Madison. That will be an epic one. So just generally in terms of the writing, every scene has a laugh out loud moment for me. And it's really hard to do that. Like, a lot of movies feel, even especially comedies today, we don't get these types of movies. They feel like they gotta be serious. They feel like they have to take a 20-minute love angle where everything's really serious. Even in the serious moments, like when he fights with his mom, it ends with, and Vicki showed me a boobies and I had them too. Like, that's how he ends a serious, like, fight. Like, cause he gets, it's a fucking comedy. We need to make them laugh every 60 seconds. And he does it. And not only does he make the attempt to make you laugh, for me it lands every time. And I think it's one of those movies that if you are into the first few jokes, you know you're gonna be in for the whole movie. You know what I mean? One thing that I think Adam Sandler is very adept at, and you can see, I think he gets more skilled with this as his movies go on, is that he fits in adult jokes that get in over kids' heads in a very effective way. Like Adam Sandler, you know, these are PG-13 movies for the most part, but I was watching them when I was 9 and 10 years old, and they have sexual jokes, but they go right over your head because you don't know anything at that point. So I think he does a really good job of that. Like, you know, obviously like Pixar and DreamWorks and whoever else, like they're known for doing that for animation movies because these G-rated movies are terrible. But, you know, with a movie being PG or PG-13, he doesn't have to do that. But he does it because he wants his movies to be family friendly. He doesn't want somebody to watch it and be like, oh, my 10-year-old can't watch Waterboy because it shows boobs. Like, you know what I mean? Or like you don't even see cleavage when she does that. Like, it completely cuts away. Like, it just makes sense. You can see the strategy in him doing it, and I think it works really well.
I thought overall the ending was great. I thought I thought the Waterboy kicking ass at the end was great. I thought the reunion with his mom was great. I thought, you know, the reunion with his team in the locker room was great. Overall, I love the announcers. I thought they were hilarious.
I love Mama, and on the scoreboard it says he loves his Mama. I love that.
Just like, you know, how the announcers like just slowly hate each other even more and more by the end. That's just really funny.
He's shaking them. And that's something that's a staple of Sandler movies in general, right? So you'll see that as you watch more of them. Sandler is very much a believer in, like, a movie should have a certain rhythm. And the final rhythm is always happy conclusion where everyone is happy in the end, except for maybe the villain. But even half the time they have good happy endings too. So, and even this movie, they don't even focus on Coach Bayou at all. It's just about their win. They don't worry about, they don't go into like how he gets fired the next season and becomes an alcoholic and dies at 80. They don't do that. He could have, but they don't.
I feel like people are like, you know, I know that he has like a speech impediment and stuff. I feel like people are overly mean to him. Like, I mean, like overly mean to him.
That's because you grew up in a soft generation. So this is what bullying was like when I was growing up. That's how I was.
The coaches and the teachers and everybody.
We made fun of him? This is, dude, that thing, I'm the water boy, I have a spoon, calling people the R word. Verbatim, when I would be sitting, and when I was 9 years old, sitting at the lunch table playing Yu-Gi-Oh with my friends, there would be kids 2 grades ahead of me down the hall. Oh, I'm playing Yu-Gi-Oh! They literally did that to me, dude. In school, at lunch, with teachers present, and no one did shit. It's just funny you brought that up, because it was a note that I had that, like, it just brought me right back to that time. Like, I think it's very funny. It makes sense to me that you would think it's extreme, but it wasn't. And you should go back, and some point you will. You go back and watch the 70s and 80s high school movies and stuff, and see the stuff they went through. You'll say, and I watched them back when I was a teenager. I was like, there's no way, like Breakfast Club. Like, there's no way they'd let kids just run around the high school. Yeah, they did. In the 80s, they did. You're gonna watch Dazed and Confused. There's no way they just ran around town paddling people. Yeah, they did. It's just, that's part of what I love about movies. You get exposed to different times and eras and cultures, and I think it's important. We're gonna run quick through odds and ends here. Do you want to start with any of yours?
Cool. At the start, like when they show like the water, it was like, dude, it was terrible. When they show like the water that the coach was giving the team.
Okay,
and, like,
so yeah.
So even because of this, like when the players, you know, again, as you said, people were that mean back then. But I think they'd be a little bit more grateful that they're actually getting good water and drinkable water. No, they just don't care.
I'm sure they would be grateful, but I know if I was a player on that team, I'd be like, we should have been getting drinkable water as soon as we got here. This isn't something we should negotiate for.
Yeah.
Should be thankful to have nutritional water. A. B, they're entitled college athletes. No, they definitely don't give a shit about the water boy. As evidenced by the fact that they purposely destroy his whole table with the water on it. Yeah. I don't think they give a fuck.
The mom sneaking into the hospital, like when she was like, you know, like faking everything, that must have been a very elaborate plan to have to like convince the doctors.
And expensive.
To have to like somehow convince the doctors that you're actually like out, and then have to be like rolled in, have a whole hospital bed and situation, have to stay asleep for like long enough from day to night, like no like real like food or water or anything. Like that's effort.
It definitely is. It definitely shows how crazy she is and the extent that she goes to. I think it's definitely driving home a point. I'll also point this out here. It's definitely not something you could do in real life, obviously. There's no way that would possibly happen. And also, would she really want to incur the thousands of dollars of debt she would have to go through just to send a point to her son that she ends up realizing was wrong anyway? So yeah, definitely a lot of issues with that decision-making process. I fully agree with you. Personally, one of my favorite jokes of this movie, the suggestion box, where he opens the paper, is it says, eat shit and kill yourself from the team. That's the suggestion box idea. Just a magical moment. I'll never forget that. Steve the Donkey, we didn't mention him with the other characters, but I'm a fan.
He's just always there.
He's always there, even in the hospital room. They let him in the hospital. So that was mind-blowing.
How do you visit the door? And that's all the patients and through like the medical halls and everything.
It's pretty impressive.
Donkey around.
However they did it, it was impressive. And I just love that he haws right in timing with Mama's head fart or her brain damage, whatever the fuck they call it.
Brain fart.
No, he calls it something stupid. He calls it whatever. Brain pain. It's brain pain. It's the brain pain, coach. You remember that? Let's talk about all of the food that gets served by Mama. There's two different barbecue scenes, right? So you have the first one where they're hosting Vicki Vallencourt.
Yes.
Do you notice what they're eating there?
They're eating like this. What is it?
Fried baby gator.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like black, not fried,
like
blackened. It's blackened gator. Just whole gator on a stick. And Vicki bites it at the end, just head first.
Yeah, like a big gummy worm.
Yeah, it was impressive. I love it. Yeah, so that, and then when they have the coach over, another great one. Do you remember what she serves then?
No, I don't.
Snake. Do you remember if she's serving it out? The coach asks, what piece am I eating here? She's like, well, snakes don't really have parts, but if I had to say, it's his knee. That makes me die every time. Because where would you put a knee on a snake? There's no joints. Anyway. And then he asks, what's for dessert? And then you hear the squirrel hit the fire. Squirrel. Excellent. Just love it. I love it. It's just amazing. It just makes, works up a good appetite. Hopefully you ate before watching this movie. Speaking of very intense things to say to somebody, how about the guard that looks at Happy in the scene and says, I'm gonna be playing with your mama tonight. Dude, as soon as you hear that, you know some shit's gonna go down, right?
Yeah.
Because you know
he loves his mama.
He loves his mama. So that scene when he tosses the ball back to him, first off, a guard can never run coast to coast to the end zone like that. It would never happen. He literally outran the whole team. He's a guard. Get the hell out of here. But the drop kick,
yeah.
Good Lord, that's the most epic hit in the whole thing. I love the camera. It's like an action shot just panning along the ground. And you just see the guards like, yeah, I won the game. And here comes Bobby. Bam! The side kick is epic. Just my favorite part of this movie. I probably said that 5 times already. One of my favorite parts of this movie is when he's at the line of scrimmage, he's visualizing, it's his mom as the quarterback.
Yeah.
And you heard before the play, the PA announcer says, good news, the first string quarterback's neck is not broken. So you know it's their backup quarterback in the game.
Yeah.
And obviously he's terrified. He watched the starter go down with what they thought was a broken neck. He sees his mom saying that Vicky's the devil. He's like, she's not the devil. She's the most beautiful woman in the world. And it cuts to the quarterback with his real face. Like, I never called her the devil. Please don't kill me. I can't even say no without laughing. It is so funny. Because that's the first time in the whole movie they show somebody that he's visualizing reacting to the visualization.
And then he lays down. He's like, I love you. And he's like, I love you too.
I love you, mama. I never want to hurt you again. Yeah, that's so fucking amazing. Stupid little point I'm going to bring up. A little nitpicky, but I'm going to bring it up. Why the hell are the coach and Colonel Sanders at the frat party after the first win?
Maybe they're frats.
What?
Secretly, Colonel Sanders has got every single party.
You're saying they're alumni.
Maybe.
You're saying that they're brothers, both happen to be brothers of that fraternity, therefore they're accepted into the party?
Maybe.
Okay, coming from somebody who was in a fraternity, no fucking way. Next.
And you tell me if Colonel Sanders showed up.
He wasn't the real Colonel Sanders.
It's like, people probably, I thought he was. If he shows up to a frat party, you're telling me people aren't letting him in? Come on.
If he could prove he was the real Colonel Sanders and he had a couple of buckets of chicken, we'd let him in. But if you're showing up with no chicken, get the fuck out. So the coach admission scene, when he admits that he's the one that did the setup with the fake transcript, that was one thing that was a really one of my favorite scenes. You have the coach who's being super relatable, falling apart, believable, and like, okay, I did this, here's what I did, blah, blah, blah. When he does that, Bobby Boucher turns around and goes, what? Like he accidentally thinking it's the T. There's just this long exaggerated what sound that is so funny. That goes right into the coach saying, I'm crying in my office like a little girl, and throws the baseball out the window, which hits Colonel Sanders and makes him do that sound I love so much. And just that whole scene is just incredible.
Yeah.
And then it ends up being the action scene. We're like, all right, I'm going to pass the test. You're going to get your manhood, and then we're going to move forward. So I think it's a very funny and pivotal scene that I just wanted to highlight in this video.
One quick thing. For the test thing, are tests usually taken in college where there's like 3 judges and then 1 solo desk in the middle of a gymnasium?
Well, no, this is an extremely unique situation where you have a star football player who's getting an expedited exam for a high school equivalency test when he was already in college. So I'm going to say this is an exception to the general rule.
Okay. I don't know why they have to make it.
I'll tell you, when you take your SATs, you will be at a college gym or auditorium, and you will have 3 to 5 proctors. So yes, that is standard.
Okay, just making sure.
But for that many people, that setup for one person seems overkill, but that is the standard setup for if you were taking a standardized test. So it might that's part of the joke, I think, is they have this huge setup. But I think it's also, like, seems like a big deal. They wouldn't want him to cheat, right? That's kind of the whole idea. I have to highlight Bobby's 3 blocks on the fake field goal they do. So they do a fake field goal. He comes out, he's a tight end on the end of the line. He swoops out and does 3 massive blocks along the sideline for the holder who's running it for the touchdown. He literally blows 2 people up at full speed, does not slow down, and then cuts the final guy dramatically. It's just so physically impossible, but every time I watch it, I get hype as shit, because it's amazing. I used to be a lineman and then fullback, so I like blocking. onside kick. I love there's my bitch.
There's my target.
There's my bitch is what he says. He does not say target. He says bitch. And honestly, every time there's an onside kick that I watch on TV, I imagine that's what the kicker's doing.
Yeah.
I imagine he's just looking down the line, there's my bitch, and fucking kicks it right at him. Now I know that's not true because there's a lot of different onside kick techniques instead of sky kicks and stuff like that. So don't think I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. How about we get down to our conclusion? Let's talk about the hold-up-ability of this film. How do you feel about The Waterboy on a scale of 1 to 10?
So I thought it was hilarious, and I haven't really seen like a true, like basically full-length comedy in a while. So
they don't make them.
Yeah. So basically, this was a big refresher for me, as like someone who watches movies a lot, and I thought it was hilarious. I thought the actors did a great job. I thought it was. The jokes were dumb, but also cleverly dumb.
Right.
So overall, I gave Star Wars an 8.5. I think that's a good rating for this movie.
I'll give you credit, Mason.
It's an 8.5.
Yup, you gave the same score you gave Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. Busting your balls. Good. I'm glad to hear that you liked it because I wasn't sure what background you have with Sandler, so I'm really glad to hear that you like that style of comedy. I would highly suggest in your own time go watch Billy Madison, watch The Wedding Singer. At least start with those two. Those two will definitely still be up your alley. But you can even keep going up the timeline as you want if you like those as well. Big Daddy's also really good for that type of humor. And 8 Crazy Nuts. Sorry, I'm going off the rail. All the movies I said earlier, just fucking watch them. So for my hold-up ability, I'll say I'm a suckler for Sandler movies, and I love football. So I think some people might think he's just gonna fucking give it a 10. But I'm not. Because I understand this is not Sandler's best work. Yeah. There's not the emotional depth that he hits in other movies, or for other 90s comedies for that matter, comparing it to other movies in that genre at that time. This one's a little shallow. It's one of the funnier ones, because like we said, in terms of like laughs per minute, it's up there, but it's a pretty simple premise, and you have some questions. We spent a good amount of time in this video talking about, is it okay to laugh at some of this stuff? Yeah. And that's the type of thing that hurts hold-up ability. On top of the fact that the visual effects aren't all that great. Yeah. I'm gonna give this a 9 out of 10, which I think is a completely reasonable score, and we'll see how other Sandler movies hold up in future installments, but I think we're both pretty happy and would suggest this for any of our viewers.
Same thing you rated Star Wars Episode 4.